What's going on, everybody? And I hope you're enjoying your Tuesday evening. This is MYG Jeffy T85 here, and I'm just going to bring you a couple of quotes that were brought from Mets GM Billy Eppler during his press conference this afternoon regarding the whole Carlos Correa situation, regarding potential extensions for a couple of young players on the New York Mets that have been key players on this team, if the Mets are still engaged for any other free agent additions to this baseball team for the rest of this offseason, and regarding the entire Carlos Correa situation. So, in terms of the entire Carlos Correa situation, Billy Eppler really didn't have much to say about it. Pretty much just talking about, how the doctors were just going to take care of everything out there, that he were going to have the doctors come in to look at Carlos Correa's ankle just to make sure that everything was suited and everything was going to be all right, until obviously Correa ended up spurning the Mets, or in this not case spurning, but leaving the Mets to go sign with the Minnesota Twins, or sign back with the Minnesota Twins, which I have no problem with, because in the end of everything, it might actually end up being the best move for the New York Mets, that Carlos Correa ended up going over to the Twins because the New York Mets weren't confident enough from what their doctors were telling them, and obviously because of what the San Diego Padres saw, the San Francisco Giants saw in the tests from the doctors coming for his ankle, that maybe it was the best thing to let him go at the time being. So, in terms of how Billy Eppler felt about the whole situations, I'm sure he's probably not happy about the whole situation. He's probably frustrated that it took as long as it did to come to some type of resolution, and the fact they weren't able to lock up Correa to a deal in the end. We're trying to come up with some type of revised deal, but at the same time, Billy Eppler is going to do whatever he can moving forward to try to help and improve this baseball team going forward, to make sure they get the most out of this New York Mets baseball team heading into the future. Now, in terms of the New York Mets, two key players. Right now, Billy Eppler has not said much in terms of what he's doing in terms of extensions for homegrown players and two stars for the New York Mets the past few years. Second baseman / third baseman Jeff McNeil, and first baseman / DH Pete Alonso. As we all know, Pete Alonso has come to a 1-year, $14.5 million deal to avoid arbitration. It was actually the biggest deal for a player to get in terms of a first baseman in arbitration ever in Major League Baseball history. And right now, Jeff McNeil is going through the court case to take care of his arbitration right now, as they were not able to settle on an arbitration deal at the time being. But at the same time, GM Billy Eppler probably doesn't want to put all his, T-notes out there to let people know what he's doing behind the scenes in terms of getting Jeff McNeil and Pete Alonso signed long term. Maybe he's waiting until sometime this season to see how both guys look out there on the baseball field, on the baseball diamond. Maybe seeing if they're trying to put together something behind the table, and now they have a little bit more extra money to play with because of the fact that Carlos Correa did end up not signing with the Mets this offseason. So, curious to see what Billy Eppler has in store for the New York Mets' two-star homegrown players. He's already got Brandon Nimmo signed to a long-term deal. That was another homegrown player that's been locked up long-term for the team's future. Now you have to wonder what they're going to be able to do for these other two homegrown players going forward. In terms of what Billy Eppler has said in the free agent market, he says he's still engaged right now in terms of the outfield and free reliever market. Obviously, the New York Mets have been connected to players such as Trey Mancini, who's played the outfield, first base, and DH. David Peralta is another guy they've had conversations with. Adam Duvall is another player. And in terms of the reliever market, the really notable name in terms of relievers have been Michael Fulmer, who is a former New York Met, who has pretty much been pitching with the Pittsburgh Tigers for the most part, the Detroit Tigers for the most part. And he's a former Met, as well as Zach Britton, who has pretty much been a Baltimore Oriole, and he knows his time with Mets manager Buck Showalter, as well as he pitched with the New York Yankees before he underwent Tommy John surgery in 2021, and he came back for at least 6 games this past season. So those are a couple of players that they're engaged with. And even Billy Eppler says he still has confidence in this offense to be able to go out there and score runs despite not signing Carlos Correa. In terms of that, I understand that Billy Eppler is trying to put out the PR notion that the New York Mets can be able to still score some runs, but at the same time, this offense was very pedestrian for the most part at certain times during last year, scoring runs consistently. And you pretty much have the same lineup now. Now that you brought it back, Brandon Nimmo, you pretty much have the same exact lineup going into the season, minus bringing up some of the young kids like Brett Beatty or Ronnie Mauricio or Mark Vientos, and of course the catcher Francisco Alvarez. You've added guys like Omar Navarros. You've added other players on this team, bit players here and there, but really nobody that goes out there and screams massive addition in the offensive end of anything. So the New York Mets, while they're saying the right things, they're still probably going behind the scenes right now and talking to certain free agents to see if they can gauge and trying to bring in some more power and some more ability to this baseball team going forward, because they still probably believe this team could add more depth in the outfield, add a little bit more depth in the relief and the bullpen, as well as try to add a little bit more punch to this lineup that in some ways is still lacking towards the bottom of this lineup. And you're putting a lot of faith in some of these kids coming up from the minor leagues that hopefully can come and pretty much step up their games going into this 2023 Major League Baseball season. As we all know, we are literally just about a month away from the start of spring training, because usually spring training starts at around the beginning, middle, or end of February to get ready for the baseball season coming at the end of March. So before you know it, the baseball season will be here, and the New York Mets right now are trying to gauge on who else they want to try to add to this baseball team before we get to spring training coming in February. So if you guys like this video, hit the like button below. Sub up if you haven't already to NYGJeffyT85 for more breaking news, updates, and chatter surrounding the New York Mets. Turn on the bell for notifications. The next video is short. They'll be dropping on the channel surrounding the New York Mets. And let me know in the comment section what you guys think about the words that Billy Eppler put in his press conference regarding Pete Alonso and Jeff McNeil possible extensions, other additions to the bullpen and outfielders in terms of depth overall and power for the rest of this offseason, and if the New York Mets truly believe they have the confidence in this offense to go out there and score enough runs coming up in this 2023 Major League Baseball season, how you feel about this currently constructed New York Mets team going into next season. So thank you very much, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your Tuesday evening. Take it easy, and let's go New York Mets. As always, all you got to do is you got to believe in those boys from Queens.